and this guy gets offended for his wife that like there's Victor's Secret and people might confuse it with Victoria's Secret. And I just think, really, don't you have more time? Don't you have something else to do with your time? Do you know, couldn't they have done other, like, I don't know. Like, I just think that that's silly. But, you know, maybe I'm missing something, you know?
I don't know. So I had
like, if the company's not mad, right?
No, they never, no.
They don't care. You're like a little teeny tiny thing, right? Okay.
Well, and it was my name.
Right, and it's your name, right.
You know,
and it's descriptive of what you're doing. You're making art yarn. So it's just descriptive. You can do descriptive use, right? That's like a trademark thing. Descriptive use, nominative use. You could name things. You could use your name. Now, sometimes you can't use your name because, like, somebody, as you probably know, you've contracted, like, you've sold your name. The Gallo wine people, this is a big problem. Like Gallo cheese, one of the family wanted to say Gallo cheese, and the question was, well, can they do that legally? But that's not what's happening here. Like, you haven't sold your name, so you can't use your name. And it wasn't confusing with, there wasn't a Kathee Nelson art yarn already, or Kathee Nelson crafts, so you weren't trying to, you know, unjustly, unfairly piggyback off of somebody else's work.
Exactly.
That's really interesting.
And, you know, I know because I've been in the legal industry my whole career, I know enough about copyright infringement. And plus, you know, just researching it when my husband was, you know, doing a lot of art photography.
Yeah.
I know just enough to be dangerous, right? So I say, no, I know my name is safe.
Right.
And spelled weird too. So, you know, because it's with 2 E's instead of a Y.
Right.
So I'm pretty safe there. But it was surprising to me. So I had another copyright experience where I was teaching. So I was asked to teach a workshop at a pretty well-known traveling art, I don't know what you call it, like a festival type thing, you know, where they have instructors come in and people sign up for classes.
Yeah.
And so I did this. I was teaching it was a colored pencil class on sanded paper, and so I was kind of getting bored with the other things I'd been teaching. So I got a brand new image, of some daffodils, and thought, okay, well, this will be really good for that technique, and it's new, and it won't be so boring for me.
Yeah.
So I made the kit. I did up the demo, the whole bit. So I get there to the conference center, and I don't know, there was like 25 people had signed up for the class, so it was, you know, kind of full. And I was putting stuff up on the screen, and I put up my reference image to show them. So I think my son just proposed.
Really?
And he's trying to video conference me.
Okay. Do you want to pause?
No, it's okay.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm sure the deed's already done. So anyway,
okay.
Sorry, that was a little sidetrack there. Anyway, so I put the image up on the screen, and then I put next to it the finished artwork that we were going to do, and I was going to do it. So they were side by side, so they could see what I used as my, you know, the frame of reference to start with, and the end product. And so somebody in the class said, "Oh, I've seen that image before. You're not supposed to be using images that other people took." Well, no, I actually took the picture. It was mine. It was actually still on my camera. And I said, "No, that's an image I took myself." And I said, "But that's a really good thing to bring up." So we talked about that a little bit.
Right.
I didn't give them any legal advice because I don't know enough. But I did say,
so you're going to do some lessons, teaching.
I said, if you're going to use an image that somebody else has taken and it's going to look just like that image, that you really need to reach out to that person and get their permission in writing, even if it's
and you also could do independent creation, right? So if I take a picture of a daffodil and you take a picture of a daffodil, it's independent creation, and you don't control. It's not like patents, right? Where only one person could get the patent. Copyright is more generous. So
exactly. But I was saying, if they are using somebody else's image, and they're going to do it, and then especially if they're going to use somebody's image, that's right. Post online, that it's good to get permission.
Totally,
right?
and Heather Kubiak is all about that. So you know, there's you think about like customs, kindness. She's always about like just reach out to the person. I'm a little more like, well, my copyright professor hat goes on. So I always want to be like, well, do you need to? It's in the public domain. Like I want to do the sort of the math and all of that. But just to be safe, and if you want to just be kind and not have any kind of chaos, yes. Reaching out. And Heather, who's an attorney, I'm a law professor, so I have a very different view of the world because I'm just all like, right? Like I like to play. They say just reach out, just ask. If you want to use somebody's pattern or something that's already been created, it's easy just to ask. Yeah.
Right. Well, and a lot of people will pull images off of the internet
to
use for artwork, and they're from sites where you actually have to buy the rights to use the image, right?
Right. And we're going to do lots of that. So what are you doing with the image? I mean, if you're just like, you pull something off the internet and you're making it for your dog quilt, who cares, right? Like really, like that, like nobody's going to care. But if you're going to sell it on Etsy, maybe someone's going to care. And then in your situation, if you're going to teach a class, you might get someone, I think, it's nonprofit usually in the classroom. You can pretty much do what you want in a classroom except for a few things. Section 110 of displaying things that you're fine. Now, again, but people get fussy. So you got to have to think about like.
Well, my point was they argued with me for about a half an hour.
Yeah, I know. So I don't understand.
I'm not going to talk about that because that's not what this class is about.
It's like
it kind of got us off on the wrong foot, right?
Right, exactly. And it's just kind of like, yes. So I do think that maybe the copyright police need a copyright class, and I'm totally happy to help them with that. Like if we don't have copyright police here, although people often think I'm the copyright police, it's very funny to walk into a room and they'll be like, I'm not photocopying this here, right? I'm not the copyright police. Right. But I think that for those that want to be the copyright police, we just need to help them understand what actually the rules are, and they're not really clear for quilters. So I'm hoping that we're going to make a handbook so that people can.
I think that's a great idea.
Right? So they understand idea expression dichotomy and independent creation, aesthetic separability, and all those basic concepts, and they can say them. They can be like, this is aesthetic non-discrimination, and they'll be able to say that and use those words. Right. And I think that knowledge is power. And I think that's really good. And they're just trying to be good citizens, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But they don't know what they, I don't know. Yeah. That's an idea.
Oh, I agree. I think that's really good. And I think that you don't want to squelch creativity.
No.
For the sake of living in a litigious society, because we really do live in a litigious society.
That's true.
We might be like the worst, right?
Yeah, and there's also just meanness. So, I mean, I think also people do steal. Like, there are people who steal. There's no question, and it's horrifying, and people get really upset. And so, I don't know. It's just trying to maybe help people understand, we have this project inspired by art that we're trying to get up and running, where we'll have a database of works for people to make quilts on for me, that are both in the public domain, do whatever you want, and ones that are under copyright, can't do everything you want, but be inspired by it, so that we can kind of understand the difference between them. And I think that's what you were saying, and we talked about it being an inspiration photograph, and you hold the copyright in it, so you can really do anything you want with it. But but people don't understand, so it's just educating people about.
I think so, and I think during that particular incident, I think what confused or got them going on that line of discussion was I used the word inspiration, and so they assumed that I was inspired by somebody else. And so it was an interesting learning lesson for me, when I am in front of other people and I am talking about the things that I do and that I make, that, it is good to have those words. I think that's a really good point. If you're using the right words, you're also not confusing people.
Right. And you can say that is interesting, right? That this is independent creation, which means that we each hold a copyright in our own image. And we didn't copy from each other. And I would be really curious to see the image that you've seen. I would love to see a copy of it. Just be positive. Like, that's, very clever. You're being super clever. Let me help you understand, to put a context of what you're seeing so that you can understand it. Now, there's spectrum of infringement, right? Infringement nobody cares about. And then there's things that people care about even though there's no economic value. So, like, just because, right? So there's all this, it's all your things about.
There's just people who are ticky-tack, too.
Yeah. Like the Music Man ladies, right? I always think of them, of like, they're, so I don't know.
So there's another question I was going to ask you to discuss in the creative community that I have run into many times.
Okay.
Particularly when I was doing more traditional art. So like I was taking a watercolor class. This was, 20 years ago. Yeah. From a really well-known regional artist. Okay. Just amazing. And the workshop, it was a workshop style thing. So I think it was 5 weeks all day, once a week, right? And it was a lot of money. So I was thinking, man, I'm getting what I want out of this, right? And so my goal was not only to learn a lot, but to finish this thing out with some really amazing artwork to put on the wall in my house too. Yeah. Right. So that was my goal.
Yeah.
And the first thing she said at the beginning of the class was that you may not sell or sell images like cards or whatever of anything that you create in this workshop.
All right. So problems. So the couple of problems. So the questions I would have asked, of course, I would have raised my hand, right? Which would have been like, are we copying her work, her exact work? No.
Yeah, no, not at all.
No. So is it a technique that she's creating? That is there a technique element to it?
No.
No. So you were creating your own work and then she was just helping you to become better as an artist?
Yes.
Yeah, you own that work and she doesn't have any right to tell you what. Yep. I mean, I guess you could have done it by contract, right? I agree by contract not to blah, blah, blah. That's not copyright. That would just be like a contract over whatever it is, which would be weird.
Yeah.
But no, she can't
do
that.
Even then, is that even, I'm not even sure under contract law that would hold up because it's still an original piece of art.
Well, you can contract around anything. Well, so it's like copyright that, like, so you can have like this, like galls the librarians all the time. So you get a database of public domain works, and the publisher has said, and you agree not to further distribute it, even though they're all in the public domain. There's a contract over it, so you can contract over anything, right? You can say like, I agree. I'm taking this class, and I agree that I will give all of my art to the charity for dogs, right? Like you've agreed to that. Has nothing to do with copyright. You just agreed to those terms as part of that class. But she can't tell you what to do with your own work that she's not. You hold the copyright in it, and she doesn't have any right to tell you what you can and can't do with it.
Yeah, it was really interesting.
That's just weird.
And that's not the last time I heard that.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, see, and that's the question. Is there a custom that somehow... Now, I can understand... I mean... People go all over the different. I mean, that we're going to be looking at patterns and people and all of that, and fabric too, of what you can and can't sell and what you can do and all that. But in terms of copyright, there's no copyright that says, unless she's like, if it's a work for hire, that would like she would hold like if you were like under her employment, right, and you were making things for her, but. Not even if you're an independent contractor. So if she contracts, she pays you to do some work, unless you assign that copyright, you hold the copyright even in the work that you, like your husband with his photography, right? If he holds the copyright in that unless he assigns the copyright to someone else. So that was just silly.
I know. And when I was, it's kind of a common thing though amongst, I don't know if it still is, but it was then amongst people who were teaching in the art industry. It was really weird.
Why do you think they
another
care?
thing, when I was doing portraits, I did, quite a few commissions, and I was right up front. I hold the copyright to this image.
And why did you want to hold the copyright in the image? Why didn't you?
Because I use it for advertising.
That's right. You needed, and did you give them the right to make copies of it or do anything they wanted? Did they give them a license to?
I did. It was their family member or whatever, so I did.
Yeah. So, I mean, and that's sort of really typical. One person holds the copyright, and then another one either gets an express license or an implied license to do things with it.
Yeah.
And it just depends on
writing so that if they took it into a photocopy center, that they had something signed by me that
that's
said,
good.
yeah,
See, you're so clever. Right, and that's what we need to help people understand.